Hi, my name is Ale Sáenz. I'm a mixing engineer and producer from Barcelona. This is where I work every day. Here I do production work as well as mixing and sometimes recording vocals as well. And this is what my day looks like. Okay, let's get started. This is my mixing template. This is what I use to mix. This is my start for every project. So every group of tracks has its color. And every track is set up with a set of starting plugins that I always use and that are just ready to go so that I don't have to spend any time looking for the plugins that I know that I will use always. So for example, here is the track of the kick drum and I have an EQ that I use usually to check if there are phase problems with other parts of the drum kit, and it's very easy for me to just click here and hear if I need to change the phase or not, and maybe do some first cleaning EQ. And then I have a compressor, in this case the API, because it's a compressor that I really like on drums because it's very fast, and I always have it because I know I'm just gonna need it at some point. And same thing with the snare, and I will probably add it in the rest of the drums if I need it. So every track is part of a larger group that is in pink. Here, for example, it's the drum group. So every drum track goes into this bus, which is the drum bus. And every group of instruments in my template works like this. Every track sums up into a group, which is the instrument group. Here is the bass tracks that go into the bass group, and the guitar tracks which go into the guitar group. And every group is the same color, it's pink, so it's really easy to see and to access. And every track is color coded, so I know that yellow is guitars and orange is keys and blue is my main vocals, so that everything is always like this, and every session that I open, I know where to look and where everything is. And then in every group track, I always have some plugins as well, usually another compressor and another EQ that I may not always use, but I probably will, and it's just faster to have it already set up, even though it's doing nothing at the start. And also every group bus has a send that sends all these, for example, all these drum tracks are being sent into these green tracks, which are effects tracks. In this case, there are reverbs and a parallel compressor. And I use these as effect buses that I have always on mute. The fader is at 0. And when everything is playing, if I want to try and see how a big reverb would sound, I just pull up the fader and I can instantly listen how this would be. And if I like it, I keep it. And if not, I just turn down the fader and maybe try another effect. For example, a smaller reverb that I have here, a room reverb. And I try it. If I don't like it, I turn it off. And the same thing with parallel compression in this case. So for the drum track, I have 3 effects always ready to go and very easy to listen to. And all my effects buses are always in green for the same reason. It's very easy to find and try fast if I need some effects, or if I like to add a little bit of ambience or reverb. It's just ready, and I don't have to load any plugins because I already have the effects that I always like on bass, the effects that I always like on drums, and the effects of guitars. Then maybe I can change, depends on the mix, but this is the template, this is what always works. And if I want to find something different, I can always go into the list of plugins and try it. And this works for every group of instruments. Every instrument goes into the group and the group is sent to the effect. And then all of the mix is sent to three bigger buses, which are the music bus, the vocals bus, and the vocal effects bus, which it's, as the name says, one receives all the music tracks without vocals, all the instrumental part of the music. Then the vocal bus only receives the lead vocals and the background vocals without effects, without, the green tracks are not going in here. The green tracks are going here in the case of the vocals. So I have the music on one side, the vocals, the dry vocals in another, and the vocal effects in another, and I can very easily control the volumes of each thing and the tonal characteristics of each thing. I can make sure that the reverbs of the vocal are not making the vocal more muddy or are preventing the words to be understood, or if they are too bright or not bright enough, I can listen to it separately and make sure that the vocal is very clear and very upfront. And same thing with the music and the vocals. I can sidechain maybe something so that the vocals are sitting a little bit better, or yeah, I can EQ them so that they work together better in this case. And then finally, these big buses are going to the master fader, in where I do the last bits of compression and limiting and maybe some EQ. And that would be it. That is the template. Everything is always ready to go so that I can go really fast and try things very easily and not get my ears tired, because I think it's very essential to work fast so that you don't get tired and always know that the decisions that you're making are the good decisions. So now I have to mix some drums, and I'm going to show you how I would do that. These are the drum tracks that they sent me. I'm going to show you now how it sounds. Okay, we have little tracks for a drum set. We have one kick drum, a snare drum, a stereo overhead, stereo toms, and some percussion. What I would do first probably is to take the toms channel and probably edit it so that I can only hear this track sound when there are drums. I would literally just get rid of everything else that is drum bleed and that I don't need because I have the other mics, and I would just cut it like this. I would crossfade a little bit. And I would do that with every tom hit so that I have the drums as clean as possible and sounding like this. In this case, the percussion track is already mixed and sounding pretty good. We have some conga, some cowbell, some shaker, and it's sounding pretty good by itself. I would probably work first on the other tracks and then add the percussion and give it the final touch. So I'm gonna mute it for now, and I would listen to the overheads by themselves. It's a pretty roomy sound. I can hear some reverb of the room, which sounds good, and I think maybe a little more compressed. That effect would be more exaggerated, and we can use it kind of as a room effect. But it's cool because the crash is also very audible and in front, so it's everything that we need from an overhead recording. What I would do is probably check the phase with the snare drum. Is what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna play them both at the same time, and I'm gonna switch the phase on the snare with this EQ plugin. Here I can click and check with the change of phase, and I'm gonna look for more definition on the snare drum and more low end on the snare drum when I change it. If I hear it, it means that I have to change it because the mics were out of phase. If I don't hear any difference, it means that it's fine, there is no phase problems, and I can just mix like that. This is the first thing that I would do whenever I'm mixing drums. In this case, I do hear more low end on the snare drum. I think it comes a little bit closer and it sounds bigger, slightly bigger, but I think it works better when the phase of the snare is switched. So I'm gonna leave it like that, and maybe I would do the same with the kick drum. I think I hear the same. It adds up a little bit of low end, which is what I wanted. So I'm gonna leave the phase changed and I'm gonna start mixing from here. I would first get the levels right for the mix. Let's see. Something to keep in mind at the very start of the mix is the level of the tracks that you're starting with. If you have tracks that are recorded too hot and the level at the beginning is pretty loud, you're probably gonna run into problems when you start mixing and you add compression and you add saturation and the gain starts going up because everything is summing. You're gonna probably run out of headroom too soon and you're gonna hit the 0 dB line and it's probably gonna saturate or it's gonna not have that much dynamics just because you started at a level that was too high. So I would make sure that the tracks are at the correct level, and if they are not, you have to gain stage, and that means just lower the volume to the correct volume to work properly and to mix with dynamics. My reference to do this properly is checking that the kick drum without no plugins, just at the beginning, hits minus 18 dBs more or less in the meter. Then I know I'm at a good level and I start mixing with that kick drum reference. I have two approaches usually going into mixing drums, which is mixing from the overhead mics or mixing from the kick and snare mics and then adding everything. In this case, I think I like how the overhead sound, and I think they were in a room that was sounding good. So I'm gonna start by having the overhead mic on and then adding a little bit of kick drum and a little bit of snare drum to get the whole drum picture and have everything balanced. So I will lower the volume on the kick and snare and toms, and let's see. I would probably leave the balance somewhere around here. I just wanted to make sure that there was a little more definition on the kick drum and a little more on the snare drum, so the overheads sound fuller and you can understand everything a little bit better. Drums and probably vocals, depending on the song, are the elements where I start mixing always, because I think they are the reference for every song. The beat and the vocals, the lyrics are essential to any song. So that's where I like to start, and then everything else has to add up to that. And that was it for today. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can ask me on my social media, or you can leave a comment below and I will answer to you as soon as possible. I hope you learned something and see you very soon.